Thanks for tuning in to this broadcast of The Resilient Advisor. My name is Jay Coulter. This is March 24th, 2020, and the markets and economy are in absolute turmoil. Advisors are struggling, and I'm excited to announce a new program for financial advisors designed to help you with your clients and your business through this crisis. I have assembled a group of world-class fintech companies that are here to help support financial advisors during this crisis with greatly expanded trial periods so that you can take advantage of their platforms to serve your clients. These fintech providers are here to support you. Not one of the firms I approached to join this program didn't want to come and join. They're here to help you through this very challenging time. The first folks to sign on are Y charts that can help you stress test your clients' portfolios and your prospects for that matter. Lead Pilot, the lead generation program from the 20 over 20 folks, will give you access to their simple, streamlined tool to manage your email and your social media. The folks at Data Points can help you calm your clients' nerves with a simple reprofiling of risk tolerance tool they have. Data Points was on a recent broadcast. And lastly, Income Conductor. The folks joining me today on this podcast have extended their trial period so that you can help use their client segmentation strategy with your guests. If you would like more information on these extended trial periods, please visit www.jcoulter.com/resilient. That is www.jcoulter.com/resilient. These are all extended trial periods by world-class fintech companies designed to help you with your practice in this challenging time. Joining me now are Sheryl O'Connor and Phil Lubinski, two of the three co-founders of the popular tool Income Conductor. First, guys, let's start with a quick introduction. Let's keep it high level. Phil, tell us a little bit about your background.
So my background, Jay, is an advisor. I actually developed this strategy back in 1984 and have been using it with clients ever since. So I'm a dual registered advisor, and I've been in the trenches for almost 40 years.
Perfect. And we're going to lean on that experience, your experience with this strategy during the more difficult times. Sheryl, give us a little bit of your background in the industry.
Hi, Jay. So I started out as a developer and worked as a program manager for a couple of large insurance companies in the Hartford area, and then decided to open up an asset management firm with my husband and a partner, where I got to know Phil through our TAMP and our outsourced portfolio management, and that we decided to team up and build a retirement income system based on the methodology that he had devised.
Excellent. Let's dive right in. Today, advisors who are struggling with their clients, one of the bigger concerns they have is somebody that was maybe over-risked, and now they're looking at a situation where they're thinking about selling out of the markets given where we are. Let's go through this time segmentation discussion as a thought exercise. And let's pretend that I'm an advisor that has reached out to Income Conductor and said, help, I have a segment of clients. They want to get out of the market now, even though they shouldn't. Maybe I did not have a time segment strategy prior to the crisis. What do I do now?
You know, I think the simplest thing to do right now is, rather than bail 100% of the assets out of the market like the client probably wants to do, is to say, why don't we just carve out your next 5 years worth of income out of the market and leave the balance there to recover. And certainly over the next 5 years, we're not going to have this kind of steady decline, or if we did, it's not going to matter where your money is anyway. But at least for this next 5 years, you could draw your income from that safe account while everything else reinvests and continues to recover.
So step one, carve out 5 years worth of living expenses?
Yes.
Okay.
Right.
And then I'm going to throw a slide up here in just a second for folks that are watching this on video. But for audio listeners, what's the next step for this, let's call it triage process of a client's finances?
Yeah, so typically what you do, once you escrow that first 5 years worth of income, then you're really building an asset allocation ladder. and you're saying to the client, let's break up your retirement, whether that's 20, 30, or 40 years, into bite-sized time horizons, and identify of your total money, how much of it are you not going to need for income until 20, 25 years from now versus how much you need right now. So we've already taken care of what you need right now in that segment one. And then the remaining segments, whether it's 2, 3, or 4, or 5 different segments, would each have a different asset allocation. And the longer it is until you need it, it would be a little more aggressive asset allocation and a little bit higher rate of return assumption. And then one by one, you just convert each segment to that segment one type of product as you come up on it. But what that does then is it avoids the sequence of returns risk that certainly a lot of retirees are feeling right now. They felt in 2008, they felt in 2000. And it also, minimizes the loss of principal, because right now the losses are paper. As soon as they pull out, then the losses are real. Mm-hmm. But by having investable, those asset allocation models that are going to be held for 10 years or longer, the odds of them losing money, no matter where you began in the markets, are nearly zero. And then for the other risk that retirees worry about, which is outliving their plan, then you can create another segment at the end that you can either build a very aggressive account that would grow to a value that would continue the income past the 20, 25 years, or you could transfer that risk and buy an insurance product that would guarantee income to a retiree from that point forward for the rest of their lives.
So Phil, right now on the screen, I have one of the slides that you guys put out on time segmentation. And in this particular example, there are 6 segments, or some people use the term buckets. For the advisor who's dealing with that scared client, they peel off segment 1 and put 5 years worth of living expenses. Does the thought process change on how many segments you then build out going forward? Or is this just kind of pulling the ripcord, get 5 out, and solve the problem later exercise at this stage in March of 2020?
I mean, probably at this stage right now, you may just pull the cord on that first 5 and let the balance ride. But ultimately, you want to get to a multiple segment model. And whether it's 5 or whether it's 6, the length of the segments is typically based on cash flow events. So if a client is waiting to claim their Social Security, then you would have one segment that would bridge them up to that point. If it's some later date in retirement, their house is going to be paid off, you may create a segment then, because then moving forward from that point, they're not going to need as much income as they were when they had the house payment. So there's no rule that it has to be 5 buckets or 5 segments. We see plans with 2 or 3 segments. We've seen plans with up to 10 segments. It really is a custom-made model for the retiree.
Interesting. So I find advisors that use the segmentation strategy pretty rooted in either 3 or 5, and they're generally time-bound. You're saying that they should be done by events, when the cash flow from other sources would either a mortgage liability would go away, or Social Security would kick in, or some other type of asset that would provide liquidity. Is that correct?
Yeah, and what we really look at, and a white paper that we wrote that was published in the Money Management Institute, is talking about what I call the 6 phases of a retiree's life. And those phases then are natural places to create segments of money for. So you have the early spending, when people want to travel and spend a lot more, and then they start to slow down a little bit. Then they have that decision about, are they going to stay in the home that they're in, or are they going to maybe consider some kind of a retirement community? And then potentially you have the long-term care or medical expense phase. And then, there's going to be some point, if you have a married couple, the odds are almost zero that they're going to die together. So you're going to have a living alone phase. And if you can map out those phases and then create separate accounts accordingly, that gives such clarity to a retiree and such peace of mind that they have a plan that's going to follow them throughout their retirement and all the different decision points they're going to have to make. And at the same time, it can be easily modified, because there's no way that you can accurately predict the needs over 25, 30, 35 years.
Mm-hmm. So, Phil, how about the couple that is 40 years old and maybe the income or the time segmentation did not make as much sense prior to the crisis here, is there any utility to using this during the accumulation years?
Not so much this strategy, but we certainly have advisors using the software to give someone a preview based on what they have, what they're contributing to it, and what it's going to look like at their retirement date when it's plugged into this strategy. Typically, when my clients got within 5 years of retirement, then that would be the time that I would carve out that first bucket. And then they weren't, because then they were going to have the next 5 years that they were going to work, plus another 5 of income that you've locked up. So we right away created a 10-year buffer so that we wouldn't have stories like we had in 2008 of people who were planning on retiring in 2010, did not make any changes to their portfolio. And then we just read story after story of all the people that didn't retire and wondered if they were ever going to be able to.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I know that you have been out of practice as a financial planner for 5 years, but I'm curious what softwares you use to complement Income Conductor, maybe for the folks in the accumulation phase.
Yeah, so many of our advisors use eMoney and Money Guide Pro. Since I go back into the 80s, neither one of those existed at that time. So the software I grew up on, which is still in play today, was Financial Profiles. Out of Carlsbad, California. And it's a very similar software. So it had all the modules that would accommodate taxes and education planning and all those accumulation type goals that people have. But it was lacking, like most of the softwares are, including eMoney and Money Guide Pro, a retirement income module. So Income Conductor plugs in extremely well and works together with those other softwares. It's not designed to be a replacement for.
Okay. Excellent. So, Phil, I want to come back to you for some stories of real applications for this tool during a time of crisis. But Sheryl, if I'm an advisor and I'm watching this broadcast or listening to the podcast, and I'm thinking, I might be able to just do this in an Excel spreadsheet. Tell me why the advisor should reach out, and this is the softball of all softball questions, why an advisor should reach out to Income Conductor instead of trying to do this on their own in an Excel spreadsheet.
So I think that, you can look at any technology and pretty much say, how could I do this manually? You could take your CRM and go back to your little note cards and your Rolodex if you wish. But the idea now is to really, kind of pick technology that's going to help you scale your business. And so that means efficiency, but it also means compliance and integration. So when you have your strategy you set forth for your business, and hopefully a lot of the listeners out there will see that focusing on this baby boomer generation and helping retirees through their retirement with income planning is a very good business strategy to focus on. Then the next step is to look for tools that are going to help you be really efficient in your office and bring on, hundreds of clients without having to add to staff. And then the other aspect of Income Conductor that is kind of a secondary thought to a lot of folks, but is really important, is the compliance aspect. So, with the regulators saying we really need to be taking in account information from the actual source and be able to produce very accurate client performance reporting for clients on a daily basis, I think that's an important thing as well that you don't get from manual processes.
Yeah, and I encourage any advisor that goes through a demo of the Income Conductor tool, you'll be blown away at the way the technology will help you manage the
I think we lost Jay.